Cool. We're on. Welcome to the now Mental Performance Playbook. I used to call it the Athlete's Health Podcast, but we're revamping up in the business, taking it out in different ways. And I'm very fortunate this time to get someone who's kind of famous now, going to hit you up anyways before that happened. But Jaron Lathrop in the MMA scene, this was something I've been thinking about for a while. Saw you were going pro anyways before your last fight, and I was going to have to hit you up. Then some stuff happened. I want to get your perspective on this, but I also just want you to introduce yourself fast. I'll show that clip once we get your introduction. We'll weave into kind of your whole backstory, everything you've learned along the way, dude, the mental side of it, the game, and just everything you've gotten. But Jaron Lathrop, if you want to introduce yourself here super fast so everyone knows who you are, what you're doing, and everything else of the sense, my guy.
Yeah, so like you said, I'm Jaron Lathrop, newly professional MMA fighter, sitting at 1-0 after last weekend, and then I was 13-1 as an amateur fighter, and I had 5 different championship belts, I think, across 3 different promotions or something like that. And then right before I turned pro, I was ranked number 1 at 125 and at 135 for the nation for amateur fighters. And then as a day job, I'm a union apprentice plumber for local 125, and I work at AAA Mechanical.
You're hustling, you got the day and the night things going on. And you freaking, that was one thing too that I saw, man. I wasn't even gonna ask you about because I saw you. I think you took it out of your bio or whatever. But I saw belt after belt after belt
Yeah.
after belt in your thing, just of everything that you had under your repertoire. And I was just like, that's crazy. That means you, because I was trying to do a lot of research before this. That just meant you were fighting at different places and in different weight classes. That's how you
Yeah,
got all those.
I started my amateur career at 145. I think I had 2 fights at 45. I lost my first fight, and then won my second one at 45, and then I did a bunch of fights at 35, and then tried to get to 125 a few times. Excuse me. And yeah, there's a promotion called True Rev MMA. I have somewhere, I think they're at the gym. I have a couple belts at the gym and a couple belts like under some clothes somewhere in my apartment. But I have their 135 belt and their 125 belt. And then there's a promotion that doesn't exist anymore, I think, called B2. I have their 135 belt. There's a promotion called Made Men that I also don't know if they're still around. I have their 125 belt, and then Ignite Fights, or no, sorry, B2 is 135, and then Ignite Fights, my last fight at 35, I have their 135 belt as well.
Those are just yours to keep now, like if the ones that aren't around anymore, or do you ever fight if someone else wants to take them from you? Is that how that works, or no?
Now that I turned pro, they're basically meaningless.
Okay,
They're just cool to look at.
yeah, could have had one of the belt, literally. I wanna do this here super fast, dude. I think I should be able to do this. Share the screen. This is gonna be the first time I do this, actually. You should be able to see this too. But then anyone who listens, watches, should be able to see this. You see this? You got it pulled
Yep.
up?
Yes, sir.
All right. I want to play this because as soon as I saw this, Jaron, I was like, Jesus. And then because me and my buddies watch a good amount of MMA, and they were sending it to me. It kind of blew up. But what I want to do before we go into like walking through everything else you've got going on, I really wanted to get your perspective on this. Like, walk me through it as it goes. You think it's better if I click on this video or this one? Which one? I mean, I watch them both, but does it matter? They're basically the same.
Do the first one on the left, probably.
Okay, because that's a lot. That one's the bigger. The other one was a square. I love that flip too, dude.
Yeah. I like to little front head spring.
Dude, let me stop sharing now. But because like when I see that, I'm just like, dude, that is something you see on TV or out of a movie. The other
Right.
thing that, and then I want to get your perspective on it. But when I saw that, I'm like, when I saw some people that we mutually know, like putting you on their story beforehand, I was just like, dude, this is actually a pretty. I mean, I was following all your fights, but I was like, this is a pretty big like place that
Well,
you were
yeah,
fighting
dude.
at.
It was
Where is that at?
that was at the Extreme Arena in Iowa City.
Wow.
That's by
Okay,
far
okay.
the biggest venue I've ever fought in. Like
How was that?
it was cool, dude. Like I had the most people I've ever had show up to a fight. Like I'm not really big on peddling tickets and trying to get people to come to the fight just
Yeah.
because it makes me a little anxious knowing that there's a bunch of people there. Um, before the fight, going into the fight, it's all washes away. But like going into it, just when like I'll have like 5 or 6 people be like, "Yeah, dude, I got tickets. I'm so excited to watch you fight." I'm like, "Oh no," because you never know. Like that clip is kind of went viral, but the first 2 minutes of that fight, he was kind of whooping me. Just caught me clean right away, and then I recovered and came back, and it was a little more back and forth, and I was getting my angles a little bit better and this and that. But it just goes to show that the fight can change at literally any moment. It's crazy. Fighting in an arena like that, I think my coach brought it up. It was just like a nice little dip your toe in the water type situation where like this is preparation for fighting for the UFC or something like that, where you're in a big arena or you're in a stadium or whatever the heck. You got to get comfortable and you got to get like adapted to that environment and fighting in that environment.
You just bring up two really, I mean, you bring up a lot of good points there, but two things that really stood out to me is that you're saying like no one probably knows this unless they're watching the whole fight. That you got dogged a little bit to start it.
Yeah.
Like you were down a little bit, but that's kind of the thing with like the highlight social media stuff, which is one of the things that I keep telling like younger athletes too. Is like you only see what you're seeing on there. You don't
Mhm.
know any of the behind the scenes, and that could even go back to your training or everything else that you're talking about. But it is that one clip, which is pretty cool. But it's that one clip that everyone sees, right? But you're just saying how it was kind of back and forth. And the other thing that stood out to me is the prep for the success. That's a key thing that I love to tell people about, or that I hear a good amount that helps people out. Is like you said, dip the toes. You gotta get ready. You gotta put some reps in of that higher stakes, that higher place, the bigger spotlight. Otherwise, if you like jumped right into it, like you might get like taken aback. Like you said, you
Yeah.
already get maybe a little anxious if some people are coming. But those were two things that you just said that really stood out. How did you just go into like, all right, this is a stage, this is what I got. Like I'm just gonna go fight at this place? Or was there any specific prep that kind of came along for that?
I just kind of block it out, I guess. I really just focus on the fight and the task at hand, which is winning the fight. Um, I was doing a little interview with the like social media team and matchmakers and commentators for the XFC event, and one of the guys asked me um if like my feelings on performing on such a big stage compared to the amateur scene that I was just fighting in, and he asked me if knowing that I was going to be televised, knowing that I was going to be live streamed, knowing that I'm at this big arena, if that affected my preparation or my mindset in the fight. And I just told them no, and they were like, "Really? You think so?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's all it's just noise. It's not gonna affect how I fight or affect how I train or how I feel going into the fight because it's just all peripheral stuff. It doesn't matter. When I'm fighting, I'm not thinking about it's getting live streamed or it's getting televised or anything like that. And like I said earlier, I get a little anxious when I know people are coming to my fights, but once I walk into the cage and even when I get to the event and make the walk and everything, when I'm warming up, it's not on my mind at all. Like the only thing on my mind is just preparing and getting ready to just give it my all for the fight, basically.
It's like you all the prep, all the training you're doing for it, the walkout in the cage itself, those variables don't change. Those are all the same things that you got total control over. And so those are just kind of what you said your main focuses
Mm-hmm.
are. And that's what really gets you going, just so it stays the same no matter where it's at,
Yeah.
how big it is, anything else.
The other thing that kind of helps with that's funny. So I wear contacts and I have glasses and stuff, and I used to fight in my contacts until like 4 or 5 amateur fights in. I had one fall out, so I took the other one out, and then I just kept fighting, only to find out like 2 days later the contact was still in my eye. I went to put in a new one, and I'm like, what the heck's going on here? And I pulled it out, and it was all gross and nasty. I'm like, I'm never fighting with contacts again. But like because I can't see, it makes it a little bit easier to focus. Like I can't see the crowd. I can't hardly see my opponent until I'm within striking range. So it helps me, I think it helps me dial in a little bit where those potential distractions are just completely negated because I just literally can't see them.
Jaron, yeah, you're literally closing at least visually,
Yeah,
blocking out the outside noise. There's nothing besides what is literally right in front of you. That is pretty crazy. That's insane, actually. Do most people fight with contacts? I feel like no, but I don't know.
I'd say it's probably like 50-50 or maybe less. I've talked to some old training partners of my coaches, and they were like, "Wow, you really go in without contacts, so you can't see nothing?" I'm like, "I prefer it." Yeah, like that's crazy. I need to see my opponent. I'm like, nah.
Would it be just rabbit hole here? Would it be different if it was just straight up like boxing versus MMA where you're doing a little more grappling or some the wrestling background or instances like that? Or is it not make that much of a difference?
Whether or not I like wear contacts
Yeah,
or
I'm just
yeah,
curious. Like depending how
um,
bad the vision is and get the contact all the way in the back, like that could be bad.
it doesn't really make a difference if I'm doing anything where I'm getting punched, I'm taking them out because it's just such a hassle to deal with. Like I used to wear them for training and everything, and there'd be day. It was like a snowstorm, and both my contacts got punched out or rubbed out in grappling or something, and I got like maybe a half mile or two down the road and stopped at a gas station, called my parents. I'm like, hey man, you guys got to bring me glasses or something. I can't do this.
Can't even drive home.
No.
That's crazy. That's pretty cool, though, like just to hear, like, because people always say in the mental side of any sport, like, block out the noise, block it out. But you actually are blocking it out,
Yeah.
which is kind of awesome. As you keep leveling up, that I think that's going to be a good advantage. But we'll see how it goes. The other thing, or one thing too, that I wanted to really get your perspective on, or to have people know, because I want to hear kind of more of this journey here, and you can obviously hype yourself up too, but for people who don't know, like we went to the same high school and you were a little bit older than me, but you were also always a man in the weight room. You're strong. You're explosive and fast. I think it was, what was it, football in the fall, then wrestling, and then track. And I don't know if you had a summer thing or not, but which I guess that would only really be baseball. But my point is within that, all of it, you were like put in the work always. Like there wasn't really a time that you weren't putting in the work. And I assume it's just stayed like that the whole time. Uh since you graduated and everything else. Obviously we didn't stay in touch too much. But I kind of want to hear your journey of how you got into the mixed martial arts from kind of your background because you were just from my perspective and I mean I didn't look this up, but you were really good at football, running back, really good at wrestling, and pretty dang good at track because you're pretty dang fast. But so I just didn't know what kind of what you've been up to since then, everything you've gotten to get into the MMA.
So straight out of high school, I really got into lifting, and I was lifting at this place called CR Elite that doesn't exist anymore. It was way too expensive for what I was making at the time too, but I wanted to get into powerlifting because, like you said, I was pretty strong in the gym or in the weight room, and I was doing that for maybe 6 months or more, just strictly lifting. And then Gavin Haugen actually, um, he swung by my parents' house one day. Now I knew he was boxing at Cedar Rapids Boxing, and he was like, "Dude, you should come through sometime." And I was like, "All right, cool, I'll bet." And then I went in, started doing some boxing. Probably 2, 3 weeks, maybe a month later, I was like, went to my lifting coach. I'm like, I think I'm a dip, dude. I really like this boxing stuff. It's taking time away from lifting, so I think I'm gonna focus on the boxing. And then just kept lifting at Top Shape and boxing with Cedar Rapids Boxing. And I had 3 boxing matches. I lost my first 2, and then I won my last one. And those fights were at like 155, I think 2 of them at one at 155, one at 145. So fighting way heavier than I should have been. And those dudes are all super tall and lanky and stuff.
Yeah.
And just my experience with boxing, I was like, I kind of always had an interest in MMA, especially when like Conor McGregor blew up and all that. Um, and just how strict boxing is with their rule set, and especially in amateurs with separating clinches and everything just so frequently. I was like, I don't like all these rules. Um, so by that time, our gym had moved to a new location, and there was a coach there who's my current coach now, Bill Camry. He was a professional MMA fighter for like 6 or 7 or 8 years or more, and he was also a Golden Gloves champion. I think he went to nationals. Um, but we're pretty similar, like personality wise and mindset wise. So we just like really got along, and he started training me in MMA. And for the first 6 months or more, it was pretty much just me and him, and he just beat my butt for like 6 months. And
Like
then
you guys would grapple
yeah,
or
he
box, do all
we'd
the stuff.
we'd
He'd just do it.
grapple and we'd spar, and like he'd be teaching me the basics, and then we'd do some grappling rounds, and he would just whoop my butt, and I was like, dang, that's crazy. Um, and then I can't remember if I think it was 2021 when I had my first amateur fight that I lost, unfortunately, but I think that lit a fire under my butt to like give me that taste of defeat, and I was like, I don't want to feel that ever again. So 13 fights later, turned pro.
That is insane. And so you're not necessarily fighting like out of a gym, then is it? Or is it still kind of a gym? Or is
It's
it
a
just kind of
gym.
like this? Yeah, and it's just like, are you one of the only MMA fighters in it then? Or no?
No,
There's some
we
other.
at this point we've had a bunch of people join us and be consistent with MMA. I think there's probably 6 or 7 guys that are maybe less than that. I'd say 5 or 6 guys that are really consistent with it and are in there pretty much every day to train with us, and then guys that float in here and there or just kind of now starting. Like at some point we've had like 12 people in for MMA before, and it's just like, wow, what do we do with all these people? Because it's a pretty small gym. It's a it's a fighter's gym. You go in there and it's kind of dirty, kind of
Yeah.
smelly. There's
Giving me
bloodstains
some Rocky
places.
vibes. Even though Rocky was
It's
totally fake, but giving me the Rocky vibes.
but sorry to retouch on what you were saying about like me in high school always working and staying active and participating in sports and stuff. When I first started my amateur career, I think I had like 10 or 12 fights in like 2 years. I had like, I was doing a pretty consistent, like one fight every 2 months or something like that, give or take, which it was a lot, but it was really fun because I didn't have any time to stress about fighting or worry about getting back in shape or anything because I'm always in the gym. And that like we were saying, that's what I like. I like being active. I like staying in the gym, I like staying in shape. I absolutely hate like having to get back in shape. Getting out of shape and getting back into shape is terrible. So I'm basically running from that feeling because I hate it.
That's a good point, actually. That's a huge point. There's always a thing of like going towards the pleasure or running away from the pain, and so far from you, sounds like everything's been going away from the pain. Obviously, trying to get to some good places, but getting away from the first loss, getting away from being out of shape, doing everything you can to just kind of get to that the next level of the next opponent, whatever the case is. That's kind of crazy to hear, actually. And that's going to bring me into this part because when you said you and your coach kind of have the same mindset, what pieces are you talking about there? Like in regard to what exactly?
Just in how we train and how we look at fighting, I guess. So, like we've said, I'm a hard worker, hard trainer. He's the same way. He's kind of an old soul. Like he says he could fit into any generation of men. Like you could drop him into the like BC times and he'd thrive. Or you could drop him in 1940s America and he'd thrive. He's a pretty hard dude. Like I don't know if he has tear ducts. He's just an absolute stone of a man. But just the work ethic and how I like to train and like to be pushed in the gym just really gels really well. Like I'm not one to I guess not usually. I'm not usually one to ask the coach or whoever is conducting the class or anything like, hey, what are we doing today? I just kind of get ready, warm up, and then especially if it's like in training camp and I know there's going to be a ton of conditioning, I know we're going to do sparring at some point during the week, stuff like that. I just don't ask. I just let them tell me what we're going to do, and that works out. I know it's going to suck, but I'm there to get better and train. I'm not there to really ask questions.
Dang.
And then looking at fighting too, um, just always going for the finish, trying to put a pace on people and do as much damage as possible, basically.
Well, in regard to that, this is I because I know there's different like modalities that you can bring in different ways to handle it. Here I am going to talk a little bit of fighting. I don't know that much, but I mean, like I told you, I've been watching it for a while. I remember when you first started because like we'd watch it in my college house, and like it was so see knowing anyone who was doing it was pretty crazy. But one thing that I assumed is somewhat of an advantage, but I want to get your perspective on it too, because it depends how you fight, is kind of the strength background that you bring to it, the explosiveness, where like you do get a punch in, you are pretty quick out there. Like that has to help at least a little bit, I would assume. But I want to get your perspective on it because it is MMA, so there's so many different technicalities within it that I didn't know how much that would really help. But at your size, like you have to be at least in your past, you've had some of the most strength for people fighting at your size. That's just my assumption.
Yeah, I haven't lifted in probably 2 years, but I've kept a lot of that strength.
Yeah.
Now that we're going pro, my coach wants me to get back into a lifting program and try to regain some strength and not necessarily put on size, but just get those muscles activated again and get them stronger. Because I don't feel weak at the weight class, obviously. I felt really strong at 120 or 135. And a lot of those guys are walking around at 155, 160, and I'm walking around at like 140, 145. But yeah, the strength definitely helps. And I'm like you said, I'm pretty explosive. I've got really big legs for my weight class. And even at like 135 and 45, just got some tree trunks of thighs. But that being said, like I said, I haven't had a dedicated lifting program for multiple years, but I'm still really strong and I'm still really strong in the gym where my training partners will be like, so what's your lifting program like, man? Like, what do you do? And I'm like, I come in here. I if Bill tells me to lift weights, I lift weights. If not, I'm lifting people.
Mhm. All right, cool. I got two pieces on that. You might know this, maybe you won't, but and I'd have to go look at specific stuff, science behind it. But if you're a good amount, some of your training at least has to be some fast twitchy stuff, right? I mean, boxing, that's a decent amount fast twitchy up.
Hmm.
Uh, but I'm sure some of the stuff you're doing for the legs are fast twitchies, at least something. Maybe not. Are there anything that you're doing fast twitchy on legs or not really? Like explosive
Um,
for the legs?
for it's usually our conditioning stuff. So for conditioning, we'll do burpee ladders a lot. So we'll run the length of the gym, do a burpee, run back and shadow box while your partner runs and does a burpee, and then you just keep ticking them up. Usually we get to like 8 in a 3-minute round. So
Dang.
like that sprint in between there, and then a lot of repetition with hitting the bag, kicking the bag, and then hitting mitts and kicking tie pads and stuff. Just
Yeah.
using the muscles and doing the specific actions that you're training to do.
Hey, I just wanted to take a second to say thank you for tuning into the Mental Performance Playbook. I love bringing you these mental exercises and strategies each week, and I am excited to help you out even farther. If you are ready to level up as a TAH Titan, train your mind like you train your body, check out our Fornoic Gym. It's our online mental gym built under the Athlete's Health brand. Inside, you're going to find structured mental drills, training tools, exclusive content, program progressions designed to help you level up and strengthen your clarity, confidence, and composure. So whether you're an athlete, coach, parent, looking to help out your athletes, looking to build that mental edge, the Fronoic Gym has what you need to level up. Head on over to www.theathleteshealth.com to take your free mental strengths finder and become a TAH Titan today. Let's get back to the show. Well, I won't want anyone to go try this. I won't want you to go try this. But there's a good amount of like speed coaches, track coaches, people that have studied and the science behind it, where if you're doing the plyos like you mentioned, or sprints or anything like that, and you haven't been lifting for a while, but you're hitting those as quick as you can, you actually can, if you would really want to, you could get under the bar at like 80% of your old max and hit a 1 rep max. And there's a good chance that you can do it, like because the nervous system itself is still firing like that. And I just said all that because while while you haven't been lifting, you've been specifically training for the fighting, like all that strength, the explosiveness that you did once have. I think if you get back in the weight room for now your pro fights, I think it's going to come back really fast. It might be slightly different, obviously, because now you got a little bit different of a body, you got a little different training underneath it, but it's gonna be there, which is why I think it's so cool to see it specifically for your instances of what you've been fighting with and everything else. It's insane.
I am excited to
Uh,
get back into lifting. It's been a long while. Like I miss
yeah,
deadlifting.
2 years, dude.
Deadlifting and
2 years is
squat used to be
crazy.
my favorite lifts.
Exactly. That's what I remember. And then I remember you being a speed demon. And the other one other thing that was really cool that I kind of wrote down because I want to get your perspective on this is it sounds like through everything you've been doing is you have the humility to like get the coaching behind it. This is something I only recently figured out and it's helped me out a ton. But for you it sounds like through all your times, whether it was for the powerlifting or for the boxing, for the fighting, you've gotten like a coach to help you out. And I know we could say like now you've been doing this for like 4 years and you could look at that as that's been a long time, but you could also say it's not crazy long, but the coaching, I'm assuming, has accelerated your progress. And one thing I just want to get your point on is getting like the help through like the coaching, through people who kind of know what they're doing versus you kind of trying to go out and learn it yourself. Like this is partly a lesson just for myself because like I said, I used to like try and figure everything out myself and it would take so much longer. Now that I know, I go to people and they help me because they already know how to do it. But that's a big lesson too. I feel like not everyone knows, especially if you're like a teenager, you think you know everything and you just try and do it yourself, but you don't. So I kind of want to get your perspective on that, on how much coaching has helped you out kind of through everything that you've been going through up to this point.
I think it's probably one of the most important things. Like there's so many things that go into athletics and fighting specifically, but having a good coach and having a coach that can like teach you the basics and then recognize what you're really good at and hone in on that while also kind of sharpening up your little duller aspects of your game is super, super important. Like after my pro debut, I was just so grateful and vocalized it to my coach how appreciative I am of his coaching and of the relationship that we have, because without that I'm literally nowhere, you know? Like the the coaching aspect is huge. To have somebody that you know is in your corner for you, you know you can trust them, and you know that they have your best interest in mind is just it's invaluable. Like there you can't put a number on that. That is the core of success, I feel like.
And
Cuz you
it
can
it's
no, go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say, and it seems like it's ideally a coach too who kind of has your same perspectives. Like you said, you guys kind of like have the same exact thoughts, the same exact mindset, which probably helps out so much opposed to another coach that like if you're button heads, like that won't really work out as well. I mean, you don't always get to control that if depending on what circumstances you're in, but to have a coach like that who can help you thrive and be put you in the best positions that you can be in, I feel like that's a big time move to have.
Yeah, it's my coach when he talks about fighters and he talks about people coming into the gym, he likes a fighter that he can kind of control like a video game. Like he says he feels like he's playing Street Fighter. Someone who listens really well and follows their instructions. That's me. Like I said earlier, I do what my coach tells me to do in the gym. I don't ever like I've never really had a choice in who I'm fighting. My coach just says, "Hey, I found you a guy. I like the matchup. We're going to take this fight." And I say, "All right, cool." And then I keep training and get ready for the fight. And then in the fight, I'm always listening and I'm always hearing his voice and following his instructions pretty much to a T. And that goes back to that relationship that you really have to have with your coach if you want to be successful, is that trust in them, where I'm kind of on autopilot in the fight, just using my muscle memory and instincts and everything, but I'm also listening for my coach's input on what to do in specific situations. And without that, it's like an unleashed dog. Like you don't really know what it's gonna do.
Did he press the buttons to do that turnaround kick, or is that
No,
the instinct muscle memory
that's
opportunity?
I've been telling people that was like accidental muscle memory, because um this might sound like gibberish to you, but for anybody that's done like Muay Thai or kickboxing or MMA, um that kind of sequence in the gym I've done probably hundreds and hundreds of times, where like in sparring someone will catch my foot and I'll throw that spinning back kick, but I've never landed it super clean like I did in the fight. But that all started from one day I was just messing around on the bag throwing question mark kicks. Um, and then I realized that I can throw that question mark kick and then plant my lead foot on the ground really fast and then do that 180 spin kick around to to
No,
to
no,
do what I
that's
did basically.
yeah,
It's
no, that's
and
good. And I follow. Like I said, watched a lot of UFC, listened to some Joe Rogan, so it feels like I'm on a Joe Rogan podcast right now, dude. Hearing you say that. And the other part within that of what you've been saying of like you just listen to your coach and then you still do your instincts and everything else. But that ties into another piece that I've been finding through doing this is so important is it almost comes hand in hand. But if you're listening, you got to be learning too. And I think that goes back to your instincts. Like probably throughout these years, and I mean obviously because it's where you've been taken. It's where you've taken it. You've been listening a lot, but it's probably, I'm assuming, you have been going to apply it. You've been learning from it, and you've been like storing it in there as you like literally muscle memory in your instance. So it's not just listening and forgetting about it, but you try and you like actively use it or actively try to, or how does that portion kind of go? The hand in hand with the listening piece, I suppose.
So for like training and the muscle memory and taking what they're saying and teaching you and applying it, that's pretty much just directly what we do in practice. If we're like, especially when I first started, we're learning new moves or learning new concepts or going over different positions and what to do in those positions or whatever it is fight related. We'll talk about it, go over it with like him and uh example partner or whatever, and then we'll drill it and we'll train it and we'll get it down. And then especially like starting out, we do that for like a week with like a certain number of things or whatever, certain move or a certain technique or situation. We'll work that whole situation and really drill it in and get it
Yeah.
baked into your brain.
So then you don't get it in the circuits, so you don't even have to
Yeah.
think about it. It's that
And
muscle memory, like you're saying.
um I want to say it's probably from my years of wrestling or maybe just from doing athletics my whole life, but I'm really good at being shown a move just a handful of times or even just seeing it on the TV or YouTube or whatever, and then being able to replicate it right away and then hone it in and really get it down pat, like the spin kick or like a question mark kick or some type of wrestling move or jujitsu move or something, and then
Do
just
you
no, go ahead.
do you when you're watching like some of the UFC fights or anything else, maybe not literally taking notes, but are you taking notes and maybe bringing them back to the camp to training
Oh
next
yeah,
week? Yeah, all the time. That's
it's
what I was
like
wondering.
a mix of like we'll have a big card on the weekend for the UFC, and then we'll either all get together and watch it or watch it separately and then talk about it on Monday. And it's like a mix of, oh, did you see what this guy did? That was so cool. And then we'll work on it or drill it or something. Or we'll be like, can you believe that this guy is in the UFC doing this? Like, who does that? Just,
It's insane.
yeah,
And it's also insane to see what Dana White does with it. I mean, it is just growing like crazy to see where he goes. I don't
insane.
know if you saw this today. Like, obviously, they were probably gonna do some stuff with Facebook because like how all that was lining up, the partnerships and stuff. But did you see all the things that he Dana White like just talked about? I think it was today or yesterday with Facebook
I did
that
not
they're gonna be
know.
doing. Yeah, I couldn't really say it off the top of my head right now. I don't remember all of it, but it sounds like it's gonna be crazy. Like like they're gonna put it on the Meta glasses and have like
But really?
yeah, like first person perspective. Maybe not in the actual fight, but like for the face offs and weigh ins, and I don't know. Facebook and Dana White, so it's gonna be pretty crazy nonetheless. But
Are they
I didn't
switching
know.
their pay-per-view to Facebook then? Because I know their deal with ESPN is, I think, up and it's already up or it's up sometime this year, and they're gonna either renegotiate or move to a different streaming platform.
Dude, I I don't know for sure, but I think so. Probably then, because he made like a reel, where he's just talking
Mm-hmm.
to the camera, but he was just listing off all the things that's coming with Facebook and UFC. So probably, honestly, probably that's insane. I didn't know that part of it.
It was because everybody hates ESPN Plus, and the pay-per-views are like $80 now, insanely expensive, stupid. But there was rumors that they might try to cut a deal with Netflix too. Is something that we heard.
Well, we'll see. We'll have to go
Yeah.
look at it after we hop off here. Uh, let's see, Lathrop. One of the last things I had, dude, and I love to hear this, but especially your journey. Uh, probably like two parters here, but some of the biggest lessons like you've learned from fighting, things that have stood out to you the most, and then Actually, yeah, that was probably it, because then it goes into like your takeaway. But that's kind of like some of your biggest lessons. So I was really curious to hear kind of some of the things you learned along the way, either about yourself, just about life in general. I don't know, man, but whatever you got for it, because that's the other thing. I just really like to help people out or coach people up on, everything you learn from what you're doing in the athletic space ties directly to what you're doing in life too. Like, I'm sure you've probably gotten more disciplined in all aspects since you have started fighting. But I want to hear it from you and kind of all your perspectives on all that, on some of your biggest lessons.
It's just, it might sound kind of cliche, but like you're way more capable and like durable as a person than you probably think you are. Because the type of training that we do, the type of conditioning that we do, and then just the fact that I'm fighting people in a cage with little 4-ounce gloves on is insane. Like, no, who does that? Nobody does that. That's
I
that's
was gonna
that's
say,
crazy people
have you
stuff.
grasped that still up to this point? Is it something that you ever grasp? Like, you're going in there and you either win or you probably get knocked out.
I can't remember which fight it was. I think it was maybe against this guy, Brandon Hoagland, who actually trains with us now. I fought him for the 135-pound belt for True Rev like 2 years ago or something. But the bell rang, and like as the bell rang, I'm like, damn, I'm really about to fight this dude. It just kind of like a weird moment of clarity of like, you're in a cage, you're gonna fight this dude, you're probably gonna get bloody, you could die, and I'm like, all right, cool.
That's
But
insane.
it's
That's just crazy.
just the amount of self-inflicted like punishment that you can take to reach your goals is incredible. Like with, like I said, the training, the sparring, and especially with cutting weight, like we talked about earlier, I think before we started recording, or no, maybe after, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
The like fighting is like 60, 70, 80% mental, something like that, where you can prepare yourself physically all you want, but if you're not there mentally, it doesn't really matter. And part of that is the weight cut. Like, that's a physical thing to make the weight, but the actual process of doing it is so mentally exhausting because it's like like I think Sean O'Malley said on Rogan one time, he's like, it feels like you're dying. And it really, really does. And if you think about it, you kind of are just slowly killing yourself to a certain point because you're taking out essentially just taking out as much water as you possibly can to try to make a specific weight. And it can mess with your head for sure.
Dude, it's to know all the dehydration and then all the tricks behind it to cut down that far, because you have to in there mess with the electrolytes, mess with your food intake.
Hmm.
It's crazy to know what you go through the couple days sometimes it takes before the fight. Obviously, you're slowly cutting, but then you have to do that. Got to get the last 10 whatever
Hmm.
pounds out before it. It's insane. Um, so just how far you can push yourself. I mean, I think that's a great point. I throughout this past year, I was having a couple other part-time jobs. I'd be getting up, dude, like early in the morning, like midnight, bro. And I'm just like, but then I still be doing it, and I still
Hmm.
do everything during the day, and I'm like, this is kind of crazy. How now I've kind of reset a little bit, and now I'm like, now I sleep in a tiny bit because I got other jobs, part-time jobs, and I'm like, I need to get back. I need to get back to it though. I need to push myself a little bit farther. I'm like, I need to make it a little harder. I need to do something like do some training like you did.
It feels
That
good. It feels good to like put yourself through adversity and then just like be successful. Like the little successes of, damn, that was the hardest practice I've ever done. But I'm not dead and I'm about to go eat an awesome dinner. So that feels pretty good.
I think you're totally right. You can't really have the good without the bad. As hard as that sounds, and like as hard as it is, like the better the good is only better because like it's harder to get.
Hmm.
Like, it's so much harder, which is insane. It's insane to think about. It's hard to think about, but you kind of only know it if you experience it. one way or the other, or know someone who has, or seen it firsthand, whatever the case is. Which is why, once again, obviously every sport, but like UFC and the MMA, it's just another ball game. It seems like for what you push yourself through and everything else, because there is no rest, especially out in the cage, dude. It's insane. It's crazy what you do.
It's
The last thing I was wondering was your recovery. Now, because now we talked about all the hardships. Do you do anything specific for recovery, or
no,
is
but
it
I
just
probably should
you?
start.
You
Like,
should.
um, Dan Hooker in the UFC, he was talking to Mighty Mouse on Mighty Mouse's podcast, and they were talking about recovery, and he was like, oh, I don't do none of it. Like he doesn't do like sauna recovery, ice bath, or he's like, I don't even stretch after practice. And I'm like, that's a little far, but I same thing. I don't have an ice bath. I don't sauna after like fights or really practice or anything. I stretch a little bit after practice and especially before practice, but I've never I've never really been like I've never taken enough damage, I think, during a fight to actually need to have a full blown like recovery week or two or month or whatever to actually nurse anything or sore muscles or anything like that. Like,
Well, knock on some wood, man. Let's keep that going. I got some right here.
yeah.
That's solid. If you ever do, I buddy just took this from me for a little bit, but like I swear to God, this is crazy. I have like this little red light flex beam thing that someone on the podcast sent to me. Like it's a decent amount of money. I was grateful for that one. I used it the first time I used it on my legs. I was like, all right, we'll see how this works. Next morning, I wasn't sore at all. I was like, holy cow. So if you need anything, you hit me up, dude. Like
My
it's kind of insane.
my lady used to work at a pet place in Illinois when she was living there, and they had this red light laser therapy thing, and I had her
Yeah.
use it on like my hamstrings one time. Oh, so good.
Dude, I didn't think like cuz you hear all the red light stuff like anything that I hear that's the new thing on Instagram or TikTok like I kind of don't go with it. But it was crazy. I was pretty surprised. I'm going to be honest.
I was gonna say sometimes it might sound goofy, but it'll surprise you if if it works, it works.
Exactly. Dude, last thing I want to show you. Last thing I want to talk to you about. Do you ever when I was looking yourself up, I want to hear your perspective on this. Where I had this window thing pulled up. Let me share this so you can see. But it was like the rankings and stuff. I kind of want to just get the perspective on it because I've never even looked at this up. I didn't know this stuff. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Have you checked this stuff out before or no?
My dad brought it up the other day at work. I work with my old man. He was like we were on lunch or something. He goes, "Don't let it go to your head, but Tapology just released some rankings." I was like, "Oh, bet, cool. What's up?" But yeah, I haven't seen the Iowa one. Number 2 in Iowa, 18 pound for pound, 16 in the Midwest, and 177, 88 in North America. That's pretty cool.
No, it is. So the reason I was showing this because obviously, yeah, like I mean, I was almost gonna ask you like, you okay if we look at this? I thought you'd be okay because of what your motivations are, and obviously don't let it go to your head. What I like if I see this, dude, and like I'm in your place, but I want to hear your perspective. I think like number 18 pound per pound or number 88 total. I gotta get that number down. Like I want to just take it as far as I can, right? With the ability that I can. But so 2 points on this, and I will let you go because we're racking up the time. But like, how do you not let this stuff go to your head? How do you keep motivated? What kind of keeps you going?
Honestly, it's kind of similar with the like prep for the fight and the guys asking me about being on TV and stuff like it's cool. It's something to like be proud of and celebrate a little bit, I guess, but it's still just peripheral stuff like they they say in oh no.
Yeah,
Okay. They say
you're
in
good
like
from
the
my end.
MMA community like rankings don't matter. And sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not true, but for me, I'm not really worried about being number one ranked, whatever, not worried about anything like that. My motivations and goals are just to be as successful as I like can be with me as a person. And success for me is winning fights, putting on good shows and performances for fans, and just being able to make money. That's like the biggest goal right now, I guess, for the future that I'm looking at is just being able to make MMA my full-time job and being able to fight for a living. And we just took the first step towards that goal, and I love fighting. Fighting's super fun. It's probably my favorite thing in the world. It's just one of the only things that's ever just clicked right away and made sense for me.
Dude, that's so amazing to hear. And honestly, I kind of agree with you too. I mean, it goes back to you being literally blind,
Yeah.
walking out there, blocking it all out. That's kind of what I was thinking too. Like I was just trying to find a little more info, and then I saw that, and I was like, "Well, that's pretty cool." I didn't know all that stuff, but I mean, that's awesome to hear where you're going to be taking this, Jaron, and kind of your goals behind it, your motivations behind it. Any other last minute take homes, last minute messages, or main takeaway? And then how could people find you if they had questions or anything else for you?
I guess takeaways would just be if you got a passion in life for anything, if it's fighting, athletics, calligraphy, literally anything, if you put your mind to it and you put your soul into it, you will be successful. And don't let other people try to tell you what success means and what it should mean to you. Your success is a personal thing. Your drives are personal. Don't let any outside influences mess with that. Like if you're passionate about something, do it. If you want to be successful, set your own level of success, and then I guess if you reach a certain point, just keep stepping that level up.
Keep
Never stay. What's the word?
never stay comfortable, I
Yeah,
guess.
exactly. You don't want to
It's a
stay
good way to
comfortable.
put it.
Success isn't comfortable. Success is hard sometimes, but it's definitely worth it. And
Yeah, man.
then as for where to find me, um I don't remember my Twitter handle. It's like
You're good. I can put it in the description when
yeah.
I put this podcast out, so
Otherwise it's
no worries.
I think I gotta do something with my Instagram because I got two Instagrams
I'll
right now. I gotta
I'll just put both
yeah,
in the
yeah.
description,
Jaron
and we'll be
Lathrop,
fine.
Jaron 22, and then the MMA oriented Instagram is Jaron Protect Your Neck Lathrop.
Nice. That's pretty cool. I like it. Yeah, dude. You always got another mountain to climb, I say. And you get it to the top, you just got another one to go.
Yep.
So kind of the whole thing I do here. Man, I appreciate you for hopping on here, talking to me.
Thank you for
New
having me.
yeah, of course, dude. New mental performance playbook, part of podcast piece of my business, the athlete's health. But catch you next week, dude. Or everyone else. See ya.